Look at us, 30, single, out here thriving.
Oh, that's a hair. No,
Hello again, and now it's my great pleasure to introduce tonight's post-screening conversation. In his review posted online earlier today, New York Times co-chief film critic Yeoh Scott called Crazy Rich Asians, quote, a party with a first-rate guest list. Well, tonight that first-rate guest list is here with us in person in a conversation moderated by the host of Screen Times, veteran New York Times contributor and self-proclaimed film fanatic Logan Hill. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to our moderator, Logan Hill, the author of Crazy Rich Asians, Kevin Kwan, and the cast members, Constance Wu, Henry Golding, Awkwafina, Michelle Yeoh, and Ken Jeong.
right, this feels good.
It's lit.
What an amazing room.
It's lit.
Feels good to you. I never get applause. This is great to me.
We need that for every room we walk into now.
Yes.
Just that applause.
You're going to get spoiled. Everybody, thank you so
we're
much
not
for coming.
going to get spoiled. We are spoiled.
We're Crazy Rich Asians.
We have to issue a correction. We promised you only about 2 or 3 people from the cast, but we've got this whole stage full. And I want to say hi to everybody watching us on Facebook Live. If you've got a question, put it in the comments. Someone will pass me a card later, and I'll ask a few of those. Yeah, Tony said this. All the reviews are coming out today, not just the New York Times. You're getting some good reviews elsewhere. I'm sorry that the 100% Rotten Tomatoes mark was broken at some point today. Yeah. But still pretty close. I mean, rounding error, basically.
That's a very Asian sentiment, too. We didn't get 100. 98.
No, that's not
I'm a failure.
Scott described this as a party with a great guest list in the green room back there. We're sipping some rosé and chat. It seemed like you guys don't hate each other. Yeah.
That's one thing we do not do. It's called acting. It's hard. It's different. It gets difficult.
What was your quote? I love your quote. What's the best type of love?
Oh, what's the best type of love? What did I say again? I was pretty day drunk.
Love.
Oh yeah, what's better than real love? Press love.
We had a couple of drinks.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
It's been a long day.
We're crumbling at the seams.
So was it always this fun? So you guys were, I hear that almost everybody was sort of in Singapore together for an extended period of time. It wasn't people flying in and out. How much did you see of everybody?
Less.
Less, because you
Then
were
they got to
filming
see
more.
of each other because I was filming every day.
And they were out doing their day trips,
So they got.
making
I
you
feel
jealous.
like they got to have a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
We
we were at bird
more
parks.
fun.
Went to bird parks.
Bird parks.
We climbed caves.
Uh-huh.
Got slapped by a monkey.
Yeah.
That was not in our film.
No, that was not in the film. His tiny wet hand made contact with my cheek, and it was a moment that I don't want to talk about anymore, and so I'll stop. And then I'd work every other Tuesday, so it worked out. It was good.
Yeah. We have a travel section at the New York Times. Are there any quick travel tips you want to give for anyone going to? I mean, Singapore. Everyone's going to apparently go to Singapore after seeing this movie.
Yeah, I was
local.
myself and Michelle are from Malaysia, so we filmed about 65% in Malaysia and the rest in sort of Singapore. So it was Malaysia's Kuala Lumpur is a little tougher to sort of get around. So to have a guide comes in handy. But Singapore is one of those countries you can just sort of be dropped off and explore yourself, and you know, it's all pedestrianized. It's super safe. So we stayed in the center of Orchard Road for probably about a good solid month. But when we reached Singapore, because everybody was kind of relying on each other to take each other out in Kuala Lumpur, we stuck as a group. But as soon as we landed in Singapore, when everybody noticed that they could kind of go out on their own, they just disappeared and would come together again for the karaoke in the evening, which we had a little way too much of.
We did karaoke
I did
literally every night. Yeah.
All right, so on down the line, what's everyone's signature karaoke song?
Ooh.
Oh, I always do. I will always love you.
Yeah?
Yes,
I like to show
girl.
off.
That's hard.
Yes, I know, and I could do it.
Get it?
I'm all about George Michael. Gotta have faith.
Okay.
Hey,
All right, I'll take
classic.
it.
Landslide.
For the quiet part.
Now, you know what? I'm not even going to answer. I'm just going to relish of your... There's always that one dude that sings My Way, you know? And he's not good. And it embarrasses all the Asians around him because he's not Asian and he sang My Way.
Don't even look at me. I never even got a chance to be there. It's like so unfair. All of them went out and had such great times, and I was reading it on Instagram, Facebook. It's like, why am I not there? It's like, oh, maybe you're the legend. Legends don't come into this. Bloody hell.
Legendary.
Under the Bridge, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay.
Yeah, good one.
Not right.
Some deep cuts. Kevin, in Tony Scott's review, he talking about deep cuts and the old classics. He refers to Jane Austen, saying, the film had the feeling of a Jane Austen story. I'm wondering, this all begins with the novel. What were your influences? What kind of influences were you channeling when you wrote this first book?
Jane Austen. I mean, she really is one of my favorite authors, and I've read every book of hers. And this really was an homage in many ways to Pride and Prejudice, a very, very obvious homage. And so, definitely her and Anthony Trollope and Edith Wharton, and there's a great tradition of people writing about the wealthy and lovesick. So, had to just carry that on.
Yeah, and it strikes me too. There's a lot of things we haven't seen in a long time. We'll talk about a number of those, but one of those things we haven't seen is a great big studio romance in a while.
Yeah.
It was as somebody who likes to go see a date movie, like to see a fun, cinematic romance. This is a great film to see. I'm curious, the two of you at the center of the story. What's the difference between a love story that you believe and one that you don't?
That's
Sorry.
tough, huh?
That was a good one.
No.
I mean, just to sort of go around that question just a little bit, I think the climate of cinema at the moment, everybody's kind of fatigued. Everybody's tired of these huge explosions and CGI. Kind of to have something so joyful as that on your screen, where you're just like enamored by a new foreign country or a culture that perhaps you're not aware of. That's what people are craving right now. And this, I hope, is kind of pushing it towards bringing back those 30 million and below budgets that the studios seem to have kind of taken away. But back to the question, in terms of like the love story, I think something with I mean, it's so obvious, but with heart, you see where the core of the story really lays, and that's the love that Rachel and Nick have. The riches and the wealth is secondary to all of it. Actually, I would say it comes in third. It's first the love that Rachel and Nick have, and it's the love that the family have, and everybody attached. So those threads are what really string through this entire tapestry that John Chu kind of weaved, and that's the core of it. That's what you get out of it when you come out of it, and you feel kind of fulfilled. It's a love story that's fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. No, but I look out at the audience and I see how mesmerized you are, right? It resonates with you. Because it's not just about an all-Asian cast. It's a story that you all relate to. And that, for me, is the most beautiful thing. So,
Did you see the Mr. Rogers documentary?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my gosh, it's very good.
Yeah.
But there's this thing he says in it where he says everything boils down to love or the lack of it. And I think, like Henry was saying, all these like big explosion movies, those are distractions kind of like I don't know, candy is a distraction from an actual nourishing meal. And I think if everything comes down to love or the lack of it or the seeking of it, I think for me and Henry, I think that's what makes a love story work, is if you truly believe those elements. And that's what,
not just
that's
he
what
likes
makes it
cats, she
appealing.
likes dogs, some contrivance.
Yeah, it's not just like two pretty people trying to be pretty.
Yeah.
You know, like that happens a lot.
Right. And you guys did that pretty well, too. That wasn't a big
No.
struggle.
Not bad.
So,
They were pretty good.
but, and Michelle, I heard that you were skeptical when you first got asked to play this part. That John Chu said that you were like, I'm not playing the villain.
I gave
Explain-
John Chu
explain
such a
what
hard time. I will never forget that Skype. I think Kevin Kwan wrote a really funny, real characters about the Asians. Whether it was Asian American, Asian British, but it was fundamentally about Asians, about real characters that live out in Asia, in Singapore, in Malaysia. And then when I got the script, I was disappointed because why is the mother a villain when she loves her children? She is the dragon mom and she protects, she would throw herself in front of a bus, right? How many mothers do I have here? Wouldn't you do that for your children, right? And then it's like, it's so two-dimensional to say that she's just mean and nasty because she thinks that she comes from not in a good enough background. But that was not the point. And I thought that this was such a perfect premise to show and let the world embrace, and especially the Asian around the world, what we are, and to share our heritage and our culture with the girl next door, with our friends, with the fabric of the society. And so I said, no. If you can't convince me, I can't do your movie because I don't believe in it, right? And I must say, John Chu, he to me is like an Ang Lee. He really is a filmmaker who can tell stories, but from the heart. It doesn't matter from what race you are. I hope that very soon we don't see us as actors or filmmakers, as color or whatever it is, but storytellers and telling stories that needs to be told in the right way and make us represent what we are and who we are. And he was so convincing, and I was like, okay. I guess I can come to your set. Like, all right, well. And then there's Ken and Awkwafina and Constance, and of course, my gorgeous son, Henry. If I have to have a son, God, let it look like him.
Let it be.
Come on. We Asians have hunks like that, right or not? We have beautiful girls, but we also have hunks. And we should be very, very proud of them. So, okay, it was a process. We worked through it, right? With Nina Jacobson, John Penotti, who were very Caucasian American. But they got it. When they came to Malaysia and Singapore, they immediately got it. They were like, yes, this is a culture that we should celebrate. And it is different when we are born in America, where we've had to work through all the differences. And I've been so appreciative because we are spoiled when we are in Asia because all the films are about us, right? And then we come here and go, oh my God, you guys are minorities and you have such a hard time. And they really do as Asians because they are labeled as such. But I hope this is not just going to be a trickle. This is going to be a stream that leads into a tsunami of what needs to be represented in the right way. And thank you, Kevin. You started it.
Yeah.
You did. You should be very proud. And then to have Ken, Awkwafina. Well, Henry, you don't count yet. Okay.
All right,
You're just
all right.
beginning. Constance, they are very vocal about what they need, and we should not be not recognized, right? But we depend on you guys, because you have to go out there and support us.
Is it?
Bottom line, okay?
There's definitely been a change in the past years. People being more vocal. Constance, I think you've definitely put yourself out there and been someone who's spoken about these issues, about inclusion repeatedly. Is there a sense to you that there's kind of a risk to that, and that it's so important that you've got to take that risk?
I think it's only a risk if what you consider success to be is employment and money. But if what you consider success to be is always really being true to your heart and your authentic self at the risk of losing something, that's your idea of success, then it's actually not a risk. It's actually more of a risk to not speak out, to take the roles that don't speak to you, because it eats at you, and regret is something that's, well, it's not fun,
Yeah.
So yeah, it just depends on what your values are. And if somebody wants to do a $1 billion movie, that's a great value. It's just not mine.
Right. And to move from Fresh Off the Boat, which has already been so trailblazing, just into syndication already and everything, to this film, does it feel to you like, and I guess this is a question for everyone, there's this question that happens, whether it's black film, we declare this is the year of black film. This is the, Spike Lee talks about this a lot, that there's always sort of a year or two, and then things revert back to the norm. Does it feel like something more fundamental is changing, and how do we get to where there is more fundamental change?
I mean, there have been actual examples. My show, when it aired, there hadn't been an Asian American show on American network TV in over 20 years. And the very next year, we had another show. So we didn't have to wait another 20 years.
Yeah.
And then this movie was made. And the thing I'm more concerned about is that, one story can't represent the whole, and I think there are a lot of people who don't feel represented by this movie or by Fresh Off the Boat and feel left out of the conversation. And that's why I tweet stuff, because I'm like, we hear you. I want those stories to be made, and I want the people who have lived those stories to make them. But you have to start with at least one.
Yeah. Henry, you had there's a little bit of controversy over your casting, and you seem to handle it very differently from a lot of people I've seen. A lot of people kind of brush it off, don't deal with it, or sort of just deny that anybody's claims matter, right? Say, oh, I should just be able to play anything.
Yeah.
You responded differently by kind of saying, I identify with the people saying
Totally.
this isn't correct. Explain a little bit about where that
Yeah, everybody on this cast has had some sort of a struggle with identity at some point during their life. That was the magic thing about getting everybody together, because we shared our stories. The Asian Americans, the British, the Australians, the Malaysians, and the Singaporeans. At some stage in our life, we had to explain ourselves, why we're from this certain part of the world, or what are we doing, looking as the way we are. For myself, it really came down to having to own my identity, being half British, half Malaysian. Something I can't change, but it is something that I can embrace. And I realized that, it's not only me who's going to be going through this. So why not just try to sort of shine a light on the conversation? The conversation is what we all needed to have. The dialogue is open. And if I have to be the brunt of that dialogue, that's fine, but at least it's there. And so people were saying, but you could have picked a full-blooded Asian, you could have picked, just a pure Chinese person. Why did you have to choose, whitewash the role? And so for me, I was kind of like, oh, whitewash, that's a strong word. But then I realized that that's what was happening. That was what the history of Hollywood was dictating, was that these roles that come once in every 25 years are being taken or being given to other people who perhaps aren't of that ethnicity. But people have the ability to speak up now. That never was the case a few years ago. Now studios and producers, directors, they're listening to everybody who are unhappy about being the wrong color for a role, or say in a Japanese film being cast as a Caucasian, and changing those characters to fit those particular actors. So for me, it was really about something that I've been struggling with my entire life, and just like planting my flag and saying, no, I hear you, but we shouldn't be nitpicking. We have to be on the same level here. Like progression. I think Nico Santos was quoted as saying, like, the tide raises all boats. Like when we rise, everybody will stand on our shoulders to get to somewhere bigger in this industry. And we've stood on many people's shoulders to be able to get to this position where we are now. So for me, it was, you got to take it on the nose a little bit. But I know for a fact it's not going to be the last time that I play somebody that I'm going to be questioned for my ethnicity. That's just who you are as somebody who has mixed heritage. So that's something I've got to deal with. Hopefully, it just opens a lot more people to that aspect.
Yeah, and I'm curious. Ken, I read you saying this was a set. You said for the first time in your career, the only time in your career you felt truly yourself on this set. And you've done a lot of work.
That was fake news. I'm kidding. No, it was because the cast, the call sheet was, from basically 25, 30 principal actors on a film set. All of us have had, even if we didn't know each other, we had parallel struggles, as Asian American actors, playing the sidekick, playing the supporting. And I remember the final scene in the movie at the Marina Sands. Wow, we've all, whether we know each other that well or not, we've been through the same thing. Mm-hmm. And there was just, I found like fellowship in that. And it was like my favorite night was shooting at the Marina Sands on the rooftop, because I felt like I've never felt more comfortable, mm-hmm. just whether I think my behavior on set is still the same, rowdy, but it was, but psychologically I really felt at home. And it's on a movie set, on a film set, it's the first time I think I've ever felt that way.
Well, I imagine you must have people like me asking you about representation in Hollywood and saying, oh, I understand certain surface things, right? That you get asked to play. I've got a friend who lives in my building who's an actress. Always gets asked to play the doctor, the IT specialist, these kinds of the supporting roles, not the leads. So a lot of us who are not Asian American actors, Asian British actors in this business, I guess we're probably missing that second layer of things that you were bonding over in some ways. Are there other things that, say, like, I just wouldn't expect that are part of the life?
Well, I mean, what you were saying about always playing the doctor, the mm-hmm. IT person, I mean, we've, on this press tour, been talking about the difference between diversity and representation. And it almost feels like they plug a person of color into that role without taking into consideration what that culture does to someone's identity. And the only way you can do that is if you have the story centered on them and not have them be like, just like a two-line part.
It does feel like right now a lot of times people are like tweaking the stats, right? Like, oh, we know these studies are being done, so
yeah,
we've got to.
And it's great if people are trying to check off a box. It's like, that's not a bad thing, but I think it's an even better thing if we can represent and actually be proud of our cultures. I mean, like, I know there's the stereotype conversation, and I always think that when people are like, oh, we don't want a story about an Asian nerd, I think that's dismissive of like a lot of people. We don't want that to be the only dimension that character has, but that doesn't mean that character isn't worthy of love or like gone through struggle, but you only see that when you center the experience. Mm-hmm. So it was different that all of us sort of got characters where we got to sort of center our family and our culture and our lives.
Yeah. When you look forward, right, and we think about what has to happen next, right? Like what's the next wave of film? The sequel is one step, right? And Kevin, you're already at work on a show for Amazon as well. But in terms of how things do change, the success of this film is obviously important. There's it's odd the pressure that people put on a film like this coming out is always absurd, right? It's like if a film flops, then suddenly that means something rather than being just like all the other films in the world that, of course, are often flop, right? And so I wonder what you think when you read something like from Variety. Variety said, this film comes with the added pressure that one bomb is all it takes for skittish development executives to nix future projects featuring near all Asian cast. It seems like it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy sometimes. If that's the way we're describing the business, then that's how the buzz is going to work. How do you feel when you read those kinds of proclamations?
That's a pretty. I don't feel.
I guess
good.
we don't read them.
Yeah. I mean, it's really easy to put pressure on something that no one's seen in 25 years and that is completely different, and no one knows. No one knows how we will show up at the box office. No one knows how those ends will meet, and the response from this movie so far has been incredible. It's not a question of whether or not we're gonna break that box office. It's gonna happen, but it's a question of what's gonna happen after that. People can say, oh, well, if it bombs, they'll never get a chance, but what if it does really well? Then what? And in my history in Hollywood, I've been 2 or 3 years, I've seen roles change. I've seen roles go from open casting, Black, Latina, Asian, to this is the role. No race attached. And the way that we are represented in the media directly affects how we get treated in real life. So if all that we are on the screen are the minstrel, the sidekick, the funny guy, the whatever, that's how we are treated. That's how people see us. And it's not their fault. That's what they're being served. It's not any actor's fault for taking, a long duck dong role. It was the roles that were available to that person that he had no choice to take. So the roles have to be available for us. And if they're not, we as actors can't create them, So we need to be behind too, as well as in front.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure.
It's like no studio, no filmmaker sets out to make a film that's not going to be successful, right? We all, whether small, big, little budget, we wanted to make a difference. And I think here, John Chu, Warner Brothers, have made a really good movie.
Yeah.
An incredible, lovely, romantic comedy that's got heart, about love, and that makes you laugh, cry, and then go to exotic locations and appreciate your friends who are of Asian descent.
And those producers believed in it wholeheartedly.
Yes,
they never,
right?
It was never
and that's
them.
what
Yeah,
it is.
Exactly.
Because if we don't have a good movie, it doesn't matter what you do. You can't flog a dead horse. Mm-hmm. It's not going to make a difference. And I believe that we have a really beautiful movie that's got heart, love, family, and all the messages and that we as film goers, to go to the cinemas and want to see. Because that's our little moment of escape into magic. And I think that is what we have here. Mm-hmm. Thank you to Kevin. Mm-hmm. Thank you to John. And thank you to the incredible cast that's brought that to you and take you for a moment to know the crazy rich Asians. Yes, right? And that's what the movie is about. And so, here we have it.
Yeah.
You're on fire tonight, Michelle. Michelle's on fire.
Man.
Tonight. I love it. Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
Legend.
Her Times Talks game is on fleek.
Who was a handful on set?
Oh, God.
Michelle Yeoh, of course.
Michelle Yeoh.
Excuse me,
Talk about
when
an
you're the
entourage.
oldest and, you have to be the most handful. Everybody has to be like, we are not worthy.
We had to.
Yeah.
We are not worthy.
had to,
Michelle Yeoh is coming. We are not worthy.
leave fruit at her feet.
Yeah. I am the most difficult on set.
Yes. It was a pill, I'll tell you that.
These guys, they got a long way to go.
Yeah.
To be honest, everybody gelled amazingly. everybody knew what they were there to do, and they were ready to step up and be professional, and you know, everybody got along. So there really wasn't any. Yeah, I'd love to think the two twins were mischievous on set. Like, how was it filming with those two?
They were lovely.
Oh,
They were so cute, right?
Yeah, they were cute.
They always wanted hugs.
There was no one. There was no
babies.
issue.
Yeah,
They were really
my character's babies, yeah.
Super cute.
They're actually
Forget it. No, forget it. Yeah.
Secret
We have
story.
a few. Thanks for our questions from Facebook, everyone who's watching online. Lily from Facebook asks, what do you think is the marker of success for this movie? How are you going to judge, how do you judge success?
Box office.
To put it blunt.
Right?
Sure. We just-
Come on, guys, be realistic. You guys have to go out there and do whatever
But
you
they
can.
already saw
I just like how we like
No,
artfully dodged.
they saw it, but
box.
I'm not gonna
I love
see
how
it
we
again.
tiptoed around the box office.
No,
Hey guys, we
no,
already
no,
won.
no.
This
No,
is
no, no,
great.
no, no.
Cultural impact. Michelle, box office. Okay.
Okay? Realistic.
Okay.
Been in the business long enough. Get out there. See it again and again and again. I don't care how many times you see it. Get your children, your nephew, just do it again.
We will
and again.
Asian guilt you. Seeing our movie.
No, we are totally gonna guilt you.
Asian
Because
guilt you.
if we don't work, it's your fault.
Oh,
Because we were amazing.
She said Asian guilt the audience.
Totally. No, we were so brilliant. Look how gorgeous they are. If you guys don't go out
All right,
there,
maybe she's right. See it, or you'll disappoint Michelle.
and I can kick ass. So you be careful.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come out for
I
you.
like your approach. I respect it.
All that pressure we were talking about, that's on them now.
Yeah,
There's no pressure.
We've done our job.
Good deflecting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben from Facebook asks, what is your hope for, well, this is a big question, but what is your hope for the future of Hollywood at large?
Wow.
Wow.
What an
At
easy,
large?
short question to answer.
yeah.
Can we have a bottle of wine before we discuss it?
A log fire, that'd be great. Gosh.
A bright
I think it just
future, a
opens
bright
up,
one?
opens up to.
I kind of don't care. Like, I think. Let's
be real, guys.
Yeah, let's be real,
No, but I
right?
mean that, like, I don't care about Hollywood in terms of the institution, because I think what the digital age is enabling is people telling their own stories on different platforms. And so, you know, I quoted that thing that Ava DuVernay says, instead of knocking on that door of somebody who doesn't appreciate me, I'm going to build my own house. And I think a lot of people are building their own houses of story. And so the institutions of Hollywood actually just follows heat. So it will follow if you make quality stuff in your own house, but I think we're done asking for permission. And so that's why I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
Like, what?
I mean, I want to see more Asian. I want to see more Asian American filmmakers that, you know, whose voices deserve to be heard on a studio platform. I want to see, you know, Jennifer Pong of Advantageous. I want to see Benson Lee of Soul Searching. I want to see Justin Chan of Gook. You know, there's so many talented Asian American filmmakers, and their voices need to be heard, you know, on a commercial platform.
Yeah.
You know, and that, you know, and that I definitely am very passionate.
Yeah, and I think the trouble with, you know, sensationalizing, you know, minorities is that the catch of that is the faster it goes in, the faster it goes out. You know, all these stories, they can't be a trend. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's hip, it's in now,
Right.
this is what they want. And then, you know, a year, 2 years down the line, no more.
Absolutely.
And I think that the goal that I think we're all kind of egging for is that we want to be here to stay, you know? And we don't want just this to be a blip. This was one
Right.
Asian movie we did, and that's it.
long term.
Yeah, we want long term. I think that's what a long term
That's the only way to change society.
We don't want to care about at large. We want to care about what's right, and
Yeah.
you know, and what is art. And there's so much to offer. There's so many talented filmmakers I know of Asian American heritage that just deserve to be heard. Yeah.
Do you find, you know, you mentioned David DuVernay. He's been a big, you know, been supporting the film and been vocal. Do you think there's something different that's happening now in this sort of decade that is more intersectional than sort of these other smaller movements of pop culture before?
well, the fact that people can use intersectionality in a conversation and at least like maybe one person will know what that means, that's like progress. Because I mean, a couple years ago, I would use that word. Nobody like knew what I was talking about. Or institutional bias or like structural racism. Like these are things, concepts that I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong way to approach them, but at least they're being approached and they're being talked about. And I think the first step to things changing is not being prescriptive, but being descriptive. So we're not saying be this way, but just be aware of the institutions that brought you up, of the implicit bias that you might not even know you have, that I probably even have. And so I think, yeah, the intersectionality conversation is just going to continue.
Yeah. We have a question from Francis from Facebook. Says, when can we stop asking about representation?
Oh my gosh. Have you guys, I don't know if you've ever gone to like one of these things with a white actor, but do you think somebody asked Brad Pitt, like, what is it like being a white actor in Hollywood? Like, it's when we don't have to. When we have
normalized.
When we have narrative plenitude, really is what it is.
Yeah, because until then you're doing two jobs, right? You're having to talk about all this stuff and try to change it and do the job that you're gifted.
Well, we also have a responsibility to our community, whereas, you know, other actors who are, you know, there's more of them, they don't have that same responsibility. For me, like, you know, if we mess up somehow, it does have an effect, it does have a backlash. And it's not fair, but it's the way it is. We can't be in this industry, in this country, and say, well, I'm just an actress, like, I'm not Asian, you know? Like, it's always gonna be a part of us. I can die, and my dying breath will be, I didn't wanna represent them, and I will be, representing them still in that moment. So there's no choice, and so, you know, the decisions we make, we have to be careful, and it's a responsibility that I didn't want at first, obviously, but it comes with the job. Don't do this job unless you want to do that, and I guess when we stop asking about representation is the day when we don't have to feel that responsibility, I guess. Yeah. Right now we have to.
Yeah. We have
thank you. Yeah.
We'll just go down the line with this one. We have someone from Facebook asking, Anna from Facebook asks, what is next for each of you, Hollywood and otherwise? Do you want to just hear about everybody's projects coming up?
I mean, well, I'm still on my show, Fresh Off the Boat. I work on that 9 months. Thank you. So I work on that like 9 months out of the year. So we just started production a couple weeks ago, and they were nice enough to let me come here. So I'm going to be doing that for a while. And I really love it there. I'm very grateful for it.
I'm going to continue acting.
You were just on set, right?
That's right, yeah. So I just got back from Vietnam. We filmed this beautiful film with the BBC and a director called Hong Kao. It's called Monsoon. That'll be for festivals next year. I've got another movie coming out next month called A Simple Favor with Paul Feig as the director and Blake Lively plays my wife. Anna Kendrick's in there too. So that comes out September 14th. And yeah, just hopefully continue it.
I'm writing a 1-hour dramatic series for Amazon.
Yeah.
Want to tell us a little bit about it?
I'm sorry?
Want to tell us a little bit about it?
It's, you know, new stories, new characters, new locations. You know, I'm trying to.
You heard it here first.
Oh, tone down the specificity.
I'm trying to branch out and do something that's not just about Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah. Awkwafina?
I just bought the Symbols expansion pack for Rock Band 4 on my phone. And so I'm wilding out. I turn the camera back on me sometimes. Depressing sight when you're singing and the drums are going. But it makes me feel free. Yeah. Thank you.
After Crazy Rich Asians, it's kind of boring. I'm going back up to space to Star Trek.
Okay.
as she energizes. That'll be the way to
How do you do that? I can only do.
Practice makes it perfect.
Do they make you practice that?
Oh, of course.
Really?
Every morning.
Wow.
Wow. That's cool.
Hey, dude, I'm the captain, and now I'm
You the captain,
emperor.
girl?
Nobody makes me do anything I don't want.
Man. Legend goals, huh? Yeah, I'm actually working on my first Netflix stand-up comedy special. I'll be
He's writing the role for all of us, right? Otherwise, I'm going to come and beat you up.
Okay.
Let me do the lights.
I'll do, yeah, you.
My light work is fantastic.
Wow.
You know, Ken and I, we were talking about how we're both from not far away from each other in North Carolina.
We're
We
literally
both
20 minutes apart. We grew up 20 minutes.
Wow.
We might be related.
I see a resemblance there.
Oh, man.
I want to go back down the line from your end, starting first. You know, we've got folks from all over, you know, from Virginia to North Carolina, very far away. But beginning in North Carolina, what impact would a film like this have meant to you when you were young, growing up in North Carolina?
It would blow my mind. I mean, when I saw Joyla Club, I was in North Carolina, and it just to see an amazing, first of all, an amazing film, and you know, first and foremost, just like Crazy Rich Asians. Just my wife and I are huge fans of Kevin's, and just I knew, even if I was not in this film, I knew this would be a great movie, a great story to tell. And then obviously, you know, being Asian American and growing up in a state where there were hardly any Asian Americans, yes, the optics, you know, is a pleasant surprise. Is wonderful, and it opens my eyes. Like, wow, maybe I could do something. Maybe, and this really happened to me. You know, maybe I don't have to be a doctor, and maybe I could be an actor. And Joyla Club had something, you know, subconsciously to do with that. You know, so I think you could, you know, it has a huge impact. You know, for a guy like me from Greensboro, North Carolina, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyone else want to answer the same version of that question?
Well, I think to me, I mean, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, Henrico, Virginia. Hey, yeah. And, you know, I did grow up in a primarily white Caucasian community. And I think seeing this film for me would just represent possibility. I mean, you don't know, oftentimes you don't know you can do something till you see someone else do it, because they've at least carved a path. And it just sort of hadn't happened. So it's just possibility. And I feel like I'm very lucky that I'm not really a planner. So I didn't really think about my future in this industry. I was a theater actress for a really long time, and I actually did a lot of classical theater. And they, surprisingly, like in Shakespeare and stuff, they don't, it's not really race specific. They like to cast many different ethnicities and races. So I wasn't used to this conversation until I got fresh off the boat. But yeah, it's just possibility that.
Do you think part of the reason theater was your track was that seemed much more possible than these other things you're doing now?
I don't think I was thinking of that when I started theater. I started theater really young. I did community theater at age 10, and then I was always doing it because it was like a safe space. Not that my home was a dangerous space. It's like in Richmond.
Escape, use theater to escape.
But in Richmond, all the weirdos did the community theater. So it's like all the people who weren't white Anglo-Saxon Protestants did community theater and could just be free and play and just do silly stuff. And I started when I was 10, and then I sort of just never left until I got to Hollywood.
Yeah. Taking this film out already, are you hearing those kinds of stories from younger people seeing this film, parents taking their films to this? What's it been like? I know you've done some screenings with very excited
Some screenings, oh yeah.
Oh, just daily.
Yeah.
A few interviews, maybe?
It's I feel like the movie's out already. every single person's I saw them. It's when did you see the movie? It was playing at Foot Locker.
On YouTube.
You missed that? Or it was at Queen Center Mall. It was broadcast on you weren't there? The response has been huge. I said, what was the rest of the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just curious. Has anything surprised you about the response? I mean, so far it just seems, it seems an intense response so far.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughters, I have twin daughters, 11 years old, and they saw the movie, and for them to see, you know, strong characters like Eleanor Young, you know, Paik Lin, Rachel Chu, to me, just to see, you know, to have them and love the movie, and to see very strong Asian female characters, it's definitely an impact on my family, and what to see them loving the movie at 11, and they're, you know, it's as a father, you know, may they continue to see more of that.
Yeah, they should be spoiled with representation.
Yes.
They should never think that it was weird.
Yeah.
And that's what us, as this generation of Asian actors, will pass on to our children.
Yeah.
You know, something that they did not have to, that they don't have to go through that we did. Yeah.
Great. Well, that's a great note to end this on. I really want to thank everyone for coming out so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for coming.